Ah, that music for your life. It says it's time now for Helping Seniors of Brevard with your host, Kerry Fink, the Executive Director of Helping Seniors, and his guest, Dr. Lee Sheldon. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, Jim, thank you so much. It's always a great day when we get together, even if the weather's a little shaky. It's a great day to get together.
Shaky it is.
for just a wonderful Wednesday. We call it lunchtime around the radio on Wednesday. And every Wednesday at 12 noon, join us right here on 90.3 FM WEJF and also online at wejf.net. for Helping Seniors Radio. You know, our organization, I was actually just giving a presentation about Helping Seniors of Brevard, and the folks from Brevard Alzheimer's were actually there giving a few words. And Deirdre Schubert, who is their Director of Education, had some very, very kind words to say about our president and founder, Joe Steckler, because Joe was kind of the driving force behind getting what they call today Joe's Clubs, which are those senior daycare centers that really make life so much better for caregivers, give them a chance to actually get a little break and still have quality care for the folks that they love and care for. And so it was really nice to see them honoring and basically celebrating Joe's excellent involvement in getting that all started. And then, as you know, the story with Helping Seniors, he'd kind of retired from that, but couldn't stay retired because he felt there was more things we needed to do for seniors and created Helping Seniors of Brevard. So here we are now in our 12th year of service to the Brevard County community, operating the Senior Information Helpline. And our guest today, Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist with Sheldon and Furtado PLLC and Solid Bite Dental. You've been there with us every single step of the way. In fact, you helped Joe get into radio stuff back in the days of when he was trying to get everything built for Brevard Alzheimer's.
Well, we skipped the radio. We went right to TV. Why not get his face on the air as well, Kerry? So we went right to the big time, to the TV show.
Yeah, and it really has made a difference, because I remember Joe saying, I remember when I first met him, and he said, Kerry, it's so important that we get good information and education in the hands of families and seniors especially, so that they can make decisions that are going to help them age well. And I love the topic, Dr. Sheldon, that you sent around today, because we always shoot some emails back and forth, and we say, well, what would be a good thing to talk about? And if you know anything about Dr. Sheldon, in addition to being like just the top periodontist ever, you really have spent a lot of time focusing in on nutrition. And I mean, we've done shows along the way, Dr. Sheldon, where you have talked about how the health of your mouth actually affects the health of your entire body. And I assume to some degree, if we talk about nutrition today, we're probably going to have some of that conversation and maybe even some of it in reverse.
Sure, it goes back and forth, Kerry, because the things that we put into our body obviously go in through the mouth, and nutrition is a big part of that. And then, of course, those diseases that occur in the mouth also seem to be correlated with diseases in other parts of the body. So, yeah, there is a relationship. Unfortunately, there are times that we just don't know enough about nutrition. It can be a very boring subject. I'll try to give you a little bit of a background on this in order to be able to make it easier for all of us to be able to help ourselves.
No, I think this is going to be so important because, you know, so often we've had conversations with seniors and a lot of people who are involved in senior caregiving. I mean, one person that comes to me, it comes to mind as we're even having this conversation, is a lady named Jillian Zebras, who is she has Chefs for Seniors, and what they are is they're a mobile chef service. Literally, she's like a gourmet chef. She helped us a whole lot with things related to the Helping Seniors car raffle and catered some of our events. And even though that wasn't really what she does, she made accommodations to help us out with that. But in talking with her, one of the things that's important is when her and her chefs go into people's houses, they cook meals and try to make it work according to what the doctor is suggesting. Like, you know, if it's a diabetic kind of a diet, or sometimes the doctor says you should be on a Mediterranean diet or whatever. I mean, they really try to match that carefully because they're trying to ensure maximum health. And I know we're probably going to go well beyond all of that today, but maybe we just kind of start off, Dr. Sheldon, with a little bit of a conversation about, current concepts of nutrition. I guess it changes. We've been through everything from food pyramid to all kinds of different things.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some of those things just aren't true. They just don't turn out to be true. Let me give you the negative background here, because the negative background we ought to get rid of, or at least get that out of the way before we get into other parts of what real nutrition is all about. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've noticed it in this country, but everything seems to be politically involved. Don't you think?
Yeah, you think?
Well, same for nutrition. So understand that some of the things that we think we should be doing may be influenced by the industry that's providing the information to our school systems and to other organizations. So do you remember where your nutrition information came from, Kerry or Jim, when you went to school?
I think I got, this is Jim Vautrot, and Dr. Sheldon, I do think I remember the Punnett Square, and that's about it.
Okay.
I was thinking it was food pyramid.
Well, that's what the Punnett Square is, I think.
Okay.
The food pyramid actually happened while we were adults. Before, it was a square. And so I don't know if that's the square you're talking about, Jim, but it was a square.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It was food that I didn't want to eat, mostly.
So I'm going to look up food square for a second and just see what shows up, because I remember a few things. But let me give you where our information came from. Our information in schools came from an organization called the National Dairy Council.
Yeah, that's right.
That sounds like a nice, innocuous organization, organization that isn't involved in anything. Correct? I mean, we're just trying to do good things, because we all know that we should all be drinking 3 glasses of milk a day. Okay. And so our nutrition information is being provided from the same people who are saying, or were saying, drink 3 glasses of milk a day. And by the way, you should get meat in your diet as well. And so we covered the dairy, that was one part of it, and we covered meat, that was the other part of the 4 squares that we were eating. So understand that perhaps some of the information that we're getting may be, at least, I won't say, we're not going to say biased, but certainly there may be some kind of influence with regard to where that information came from and how that information might be imparted or might be received by us. So, do we all say that we should be drinking 3 glasses of milk today? Most people are not saying that. Most people who have studied the science would say there's not a lot of evidence that drinking milk, in fact, works in order to be able to help us and help our bodies in the ways that we think they are. So let's look, for example, at calcium, because everybody talks about osteoporosis and that type of thing. If you look and you survey the dairy consuming countries, those countries are the countries that are most likely to have osteoporosis. Does that ring a bell? Does that hurt anybody by my saying that?
I don't know. I thought it was bad for kidney stones and things like that.
Right.
Well, it could be, although kidney stones are probably related to something else, but certainly calcium is a part of that. But if you're drinking milk or you're taking calcium in that form in order to be able to stop osteoporosis, so we're talking about Scandinavian countries as well as the United States, those are the countries that have the most osteoporosis. So 1 and 1 doesn't necessarily make 2, or the logic that we think we're studying may not, in fact, really apply to the health and the success of the human body. And by the way, human bodies are different. Some bodies are different from others. Some bodies want more or need more nutrients than others. But only to say that the source of the information we had may not have been an unbiased source of information when we were getting that information in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Okay.
Wow.
So can we accept that, or have I just? Are we going to be driven off the air now because I said something like that? By the way, Anything I'm saying to you is my opinion only. Do not make any health decisions based on what I have said. Follow the advice of your doctor, okay? We're putting in that disclaimer at least twice today.
I'm drinking lots of water, doctor. I'm drinking lots of water.
Yeah, I was thinking as you're describing this. I mean, that is the thing that most of us really don't necessarily take into account. My favorite thing, because good or bad, I love coffee, and so I cheer every time they say coffee extends your health, and it's healthy for you to have coffee every day. And then I frown every time I see an article that comes up and says, "Oh, but the effects of caffeine are bad for you." And it really is tough, if you're serious about it, to really kind of figure out how to get a straight answer, Dr. Sheldon.
Well, it's true. And I'm one of those who thrives on coffee. So understand, when we're looking at the scientific data, there's scientific data that will support both sides of any argument. And then what we're looking for when we don't know exactly what we should do, we're looking for the preponderance of the literature, not any individual study. So it's funny because on the news, we'll see studies all the time. This study says this, well, this study says that, and then you've got contradictory information. Well, what do I do? What do I do?
Right.
And it's important. I'll give you an example. I have a little bit of a problem. I've had a problem for years. I've been seeing a doctor for it. And I've been taking medication in order to be able to control the problem. I started taking a fruit and vegetable supplement, and my need for that medication went down.
Wow.
So, is it, I have the problem. And so, by the way, I just saw him last week. I said, all right, I've been taking this medication now for 5 years. And I've been reducing the medication I've been using. How about if I go off the medication entirely? We'll take another blood test in 2 months to see how we are. Well, the physician in him said, no, things are working fine. But he also knew that he was dealing with me, and so he had to agree with me. And so he said, good, we're doing it in 2 months. We're doing a control study. I can take the blood test again in 2 months, and we can see how you're doing. So, there is room for good give and take, but more importantly, the recognition that he had to admit, as much as he didn't want to, he had to admit that, in fact, my intake of a fruit and vegetable supplement did change the blood test. It did change the blood test for the positive for me by my taking the fruit and vegetable supplement. So while that would never fly in medical school, and I doubt if he's ever going to tell any patients about what I was doing in order to be able to wean myself off or take less of that medication. But in fact, that's what worked for me. Understand that the fundamentals of nutrition, which is having fruits and vegetables, a lot of fruits and vegetables a day, may help us so much that we don't have to take some of the medications we're taking right now. Right.
And, I guess that is the point. Like, I remember you and I did a radio show sometime back where you were involved in the results of a study that was pretty widespread. I think you said it was like over in Taiwan or something, but they were looking at all the impacts of the things that were going on in the mouth as it had to do with heart health. And so I guess it's interesting that we have been trained to think of how we think about nutrition, as opposed to, what are the real ways that we might want to choose our foods? Again, like we were talking a few minutes ago about starting with a food pyramid, or I didn't even know about a food square. But I mean, basically, maybe we're carrying around ideas that are not as helpful as we think they need to be. But how do we start to choose our foods?
Yeah, I think the first thing, it was an old axiom that I got from somebody else that I've been telling my patients for my entire career. When you go shopping at the food store, go shopping around the periphery of the store, because the periphery of the store is the fresh stuff. Mm-hmm. If you go into the aisles, that's the stuff in the can or the box where the machine has eaten all the good stuff and the rest of it's spit out of the box. So if we concentrate just on that, if we just concentrate on fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and lean meats and that type of thing, we're already ahead of the game. And the moment that we're going into something that's been in a can or a box, as I said, understand the machine ate all the good stuff, spit out all the bad stuff, added a number of items, chemicals, in order to be able to extend shelf life, and then you're buying that and you're eating that. Notice, I don't know if this works for you, Kerry or Jim, but it works this way for me. Let's assume that I take a box of crackers. Mm-hmm. I can continue to eat a cracker after cracker after cracker after cracker, and I never get full. But if I go in the refrigerator and cut up an apple, I'm full after that apple. That ever happened to you?
Yeah. I follow.
Yeah,
I follow.
True. Yeah, definitely.
The body's pretty smart.
Yeah.
You know, the body knows when it's getting enough. And when we're having those things that are those processed foods, then the body's saying, well, give me more, because I'm not getting enough nutrients. I need more. And so I don't have a feeling of fullness. I don't get that feedback loop occurring because the body's saying, I still don't have enough nutrients. I'm still hungry. Well, hungry is not just a dietary hunger. It's a hunger for nutrients. And once the body gets fulfills that hunger for nutrients, then that desire to eat turns itself off.
Wow.
Easy way goes away.
I was thinking as well while you're talking about that. That's so true. It's like they say, isn't that one of the things that they tell you about if you're concerned about your weight, you should be drinking water because that is something that ends up helping you to fill up. I mean, the problem is, I think, Dr. Sheldon, we hear all these various tips. You'll see, 3 steps to do this or 4 things to do that. And we probably need to be thinking more holistically about an approach rather than, going on a binge because somebody said a particular kind of juice is what you need to be drinking this month.
I think so. I think you're right. I think, systems are better than goals. And if we can establish a system that works for us, and your system may be different from my system, but we establish a system. By the way, we can get our systems from just doing some basic reading. And I'll give you some examples of where you can go and do some reading and a simple reading to do.
I was thinking,
establish a system and you stay within the system, then you'll reach the goal. If you're just saying, well, I have a goal of this, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, well, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to starve myself to death. Well, you know how long that's going to last before you finally say, all right, I've got to eat twice as much in order to be able to take care of the starvation that I'm feeling in my stomach. So, but if we have a system that we can work with, hey, I like the system. I can work within the system. And it could be one of the commercial systems. Some of the systems you see advertised, it could be one of those. But if we have a system that works where I'm feeling good and I'm losing weight, well, we're fulfilling the goal.
And I guess that's a question, that I guess you've helped so many people over the years as you see them come in. I know that I remember back in the early days, you and Joe talking about different approaches to nutrition. I mean, this has not been something you just jumped on like this week. I mean, this has been a core part of how you try to help the folks that come in your office is to understand how all this stuff kind of works together.
Oh, it's true. And then that if that's supported by the literature, then we're doing pretty well. So let's go to a fairly prominent study that was done.
Okay.
This is from a study, a long-term study, observing 100,000 men and women, and they were followed for 28 to 30 years in the Nurses' Health Study and Professionals Follow-Up Study. This same study has been done on these hundreds of thousands of people following different variables in people's lives. You don't have that many long-term studies. And so what they find? They found that for those people who consume 5 servings of fruits and vegetables each day, they were less likely to die early. They had a lower risk of overall death and from dying of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory disease. So what are the main causes of death? Cardiovascular disease, number 1, cancer, number 2. I don't know where respiratory disease is, but it's certainly pretty high. So all that is 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day.
Wow.
Not
Wow.
bad.
Right.
Now, what does that mean? All right, have a couple of fruits. Have some bananas, have some apples, have a banana, have an apple. There you've got 2 servings of fruits and vegetables. Have a salad with some peppers and some real green leafy vegetables, and some of the lettuces don't count for that. And you've got your 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. The cruciferous vegetables are probably better. So you'd have broccoli or something along that line, and you're going to do well. So there's a long-term study of 100,000 people, 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. Simple.
Well, and it's not only that, true too, because all the things that most of us say we want to accomplish, right? We say we want to probably lose some weight. We probably say, well, it'd be great to be feeling a little better in general and things like that. And just what you're talking about, not only accomplishes those things, but it's just healthier living in general, right?
Well, it is. And unfortunately, there are lots of distractions. If I go down, I pass the ice cream stand, man, oh man, I want that. If I go to Publix and I see 2 for $1 on my favorite ice cream sandwich, oh man, I want that. And then I eat it. I eat a lot of it. So the best thing I can do is not buy it and forget the 2 for $1. Just don't buy it and don't have it in the refrigerator. If you don't have it in the refrigerator, you don't have it on the counter, you don't have it on the shelf, you're not going to eat it.
Is that what you mean by what does moderation really mean?
Yeah, just so you know, listener, you understand that I give Kerry some questions. Sometimes my questions are so cryptic, he has no idea what I'm going.
Well, I thought, there's a difference between having the ice cream sandwiches in your house and then moderating your ability to access them.
It's true, but understand, when you and I grew up before the fast food era, moderation was going to that place with the golden arches maybe once a month. Now, moderation to people might be, I'll only go 3 times this week. There's a big difference there. Even the place of the Golden Arches understands that there are some things that people are demanding now from with regard to nutrition, and they're improving their product as well.
How often do you think we are? I don't want to say misled, because that sounds like it's a really strong term. But here's what I mean: like, we'll see a TV commercial, and it'll tell us about a particular breakfast cereal, and if we do this is going to help us lower our cholesterol, and so we think, wow, that's what I should pick up the next time in the grocery store. And I know you're trying to get us to think past that, but I just want to kind of get your thought about, this is heart healthy, or those kind of things that we see when we see a commercial.
Yeah, and I'm partial to those things that we can prepare, and so I like those things that requires a little bit of effort on our part. Number one, we can be a little more creative. Number two, as I said, if you're actually eating that particular cereal where you open up the box, well, that's probably not as good as it would be if you opened up the oatmeal and you put the oatmeal and actually stirred it with some milk or some water or whatever it is in order to be able to create that cereal that might take you 15 minutes or so to actually put together. Yes. By the way, you know how I do my oatmeal? How's that? Okay, so I'll get regular oats. I get steel cut oats, and I tend to buy organic. I think organic generally is going to be better than non, because organic likely is not going to have some of the residues and some of the pesticides and things like that non would. So I'll get my organic stuff, which I can get at any food store. I bought a rice cooker. I bought this rice cooker 25 or 30 years ago. I bought it when I was doing that TV show that you talk about.
Right.
Yeah. And so I went over to my co-host's house, Petra Schneider, who's a plastic surgeon. She's now She was here at that time. She's now in Mississippi. And she showed me the rice cooker that she had. I bought the rice cooker, and all I have to do is put the oatmeal and the amount of, I use almond milk, and I put the almond milk and water in, and I might add a little bit of flavoring and stuff like that, certainly a little bit of salt, and then sometimes I put a little bit of honey in it, and all I do is wait for 20 minutes. The rice cooker does all the work. I don't have to stir it. I don't have to do anything, and 20 minutes later, it's all done. It's there.
Well, it
so
sounds
easy.
Sounds delicious and nutritious. And so we're talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon, who is a noted area periodontist, but has a real kind of, I guess, experience and a passion for eating healthy. And so we're going to be continuing our conversation in the second half of the show as we're talking about the current concepts on nutrition. And, you know, every time we go to the doctor's office, they're usually giving us some sort of a fussing about either needing to lose weight or we want you on a certain kind of diet and things like that. And that's why this show today on Helping Seniors Radio is so important. And so as we come back on the second half of the show, we're gonna quiz Dr. Sheldon about some topics like, can we get what we need at the local supermarket? And we're also going to talk a little bit about supplements and things like that. So you're going to want to stay tuned for the second half of the show. And if you are getting something out of the show, I want to remind you all these things are available for you to watch later at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. So we'll see you in just a moment.
And you're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard with your host, Kerry Fink. I'm Jim Vautrot, but we have Dr. Lee Sheldon with us today. And, well, I think we're hoping that you're all nice and safe and getting prepared for the comings and goings of that wild storm that's on its way. And just be safe and be careful. Kerry, how are you doing today? We got a lot of talk about the right foods. I've always been on the wrong side of those foods. I would be getting all of those ice creams, and you can bring them all to my house. I will suffer through them.
Well, it's a well-known secret that whenever we get together for Helping Seniors board meetings, and some of the places that we go to, they have some terrific like chocolate chip cookies and things like that. And so it's really hard. That's why I was asking Dr. Sheldon in the first half of the show, where he was talking about what is moderation real, or I was asking him, what does moderation really mean? Because it's hard to stay away from some of that good stuff. But that is the topic of the show. So our guest today is none other than Dr. Lee Sheldon, who is noted area periodontist. I like to call him kind of like the father, grandfather, but he's the expert on dental implants. He and his son, Dr. Matt Sheldon, who pretty much, I guess, him and Dr. Michelle Furtado, who's a periodontist just like Dr. Sheldon himself, they all have had this practice together there in Brevard County, right there on Sonner Road, and really have kind of built a reputation for being so excellent at that. But we've also talked about that all along the way. Dr. Sheldon has talked about the importance of nutrition. And so that's really where we're gonna focus in on and continue our discussion. And what I was saying is we went into the half show break, is that the beautiful thing is we archive everything. So welcome back, by the way, to 90.3 FM WEJF, and also hello to those who are listening to us online at WEJF.net. But there's a whole audience that catches this as podcasts, and a lot of people will go back and find these broadcasts on our YouTube channel, Helping Seniors of Brevard, our Facebook page, Helping Seniors of Brevard, and access it that way. And there is a great wealth of material, I feel, that's available to you, because Dr. Sheldon, you've talked about this topic a lot along the way, about the importance of, kind of looking at, not just the mouth as a set of teeth, but really as part of the entire health structure that we're trying to maximize.
Yeah, and it is part of what dentists train to do. We train in nutrition. Certainly, we don't train in nutrition as well or as much as others. And by the way, those people who train in nutrition are not necessarily in the medical or the dental fields. They are on the outside. You'll find alternative people who are probably better trained or more trained in nutrition than we are. And I guess that's part of it is your source of information. Where are you getting your information from? If you look at traditional doctor land, if you talk to a traditional MD, then you're talking to somebody who gets maybe a day or two, if that much, on nutrition during the entire during medical school, or at least when I was going to school, that's the way it was. And from what I understand, it hasn't changed very much. And so, unfortunately, we're relying on our doctors, on our physicians for all of our information. And I think one thing we can say is that we've got to broaden out our sources for information, because the doctor is there to take a sick person and make that person unsick. That's what a doctor does. I know there's some things that are done for prevention. I know that people are taking statin drugs in order to be able to lower cholesterol and that type of thing. So they are doing some things. But if you're looking for the broad base, the basic foods that we're doing, that's not likely good. It'll come from some physicians, but not from many. It's very easy to buy a book or to subscribe to a newsletter. And if you subscribe to that newsletter or to a newsletter, you may be more informed on nutrition than I am. That's how easy it can be. That's how well you can do. Let's hit the cholesterol issue for a moment, because we're going to talk about supplements, and I don't want to drop it since I already brought up cholesterol. I know I'm doing it completely out of order, Kerry.
That's okay. Let's follow.
So let's talk about cholesterol lowering drugs, the statin drugs. Statin drugs do produce the correct levels of cholesterol, so they lower the low density lipids and raise the high density lipids, and that is for many people a good thing. But along the way, what it does is to stop the cell, the basic cell, the energy producing unit of the body is called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria does not work, and therefore our energy goes down. The reason our energy goes down is that the statin drug drives out a vitamin that we make intrinsically, we make ourselves, called coenzyme Q10. And so the standard thing that we do for people who are taking cholesterol-lowering drugs is to go to the health food store or to the drugstore and buy coenzyme Q10 to supplement what you're losing as a result of of taking cholesterol-lowering drugs. That will have a basic health benefit for you. It'll also, there's some people who have difficulty taking those drugs. It, for some people, will take care of the difficulty, the muscle cramps and that type of thing that might occur as a result of you using the cholesterol-lowering drug. So anybody who's taking cholesterol-lowering drug, who's taking a statin drug, should talk to his or her doctor about taking coenzyme Q10. The best form of coenzyme Q10, which is a vitamin, is ubiquinol, ubiquinol. So if you're taking that drug, you take the ubiquinol along with that, and you'll do better. It's interesting that that's something I've been talking about for 20 years. It's now being advertised on TV.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to ask you about, because I was thinking, like, it's interesting that the feedback we get from from doctors and dentists. I mean, as a kid, you went to the dentist's office, and of course they were talking to you about sugar and cavities. I mean, as a kid, I remember that was the sort of the extent of nutritional advice that I remember receiving at a dentist's office growing up as a child. And I was thinking, even when you go to a doctor that doesn't really go much beyond the straight and narrow bounds, I mean, I've heard certain doctors say, well, I don't really know that I believe supplements do much. And I was thinking, like, that's an interesting thing to be coming from an MD. But then when you put it against the backdrop of that they're not really trained in that side of it, they don't see that kind of I guess, for lack of a better term, maybe it gets overused, that holistic approach. They're really in that specialization kind of area. It makes it tough for us, just as regular people who don't have all that education in this, to know how to proceed correctly.
It's true. Let me give you some good sources, and they're free sources, by the way. At least the first one is. The first is Dr. Michael Greger. Now, Dr. Michael Greger defends vegetarianism, so understand that that's his bias. But he does go to the medical literature, and his review of the medical literature, I think, is just outstanding. Michael Greger, Greger. The website is nutritionfacts.org. nutritionfacts.org, FACTS. Go there, just sign up. Of course, he'd like some donations in order to support his research, but even if you don't donate, you will get his research. And it gives you a little bit of easy reading, but more important for us in these days of audio and visual, he'll give about a 6 or 7 minute summary of what the findings are in a particular subject. Well, between going to nutritionfacts.org, which has a library of all of the materials that he has, just like Helping Seniors of Brevard has the library materials of all the things we have, between what you see there and what you're going to get from him once or twice a week is going to give you a very quick primer on nutrition, what's working and what isn't. And I think what he would say, and I agree with him, is that you can't take supplements in order to be able to substitute for a bad diet. That doesn't work.
Right.
It's still fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. Yeah, a little bit of whole grains too, and that type of thing, and meat, fish, that type of thing. But the cookies and the candies and the cornflakes and I didn't say cornflakes, and those things that are in our box may not be the best things for us.
Right.
And this will kind of support that. What you're looking, remember we talked about systems are more important than goals. If we're looking at a system, we'll at least see the Dr. Michael Greger system and see whether we want to plug ourselves into that. It will give us a fundamental that we can use so that we can determine for ourselves what we can do as far as our health decisions. Another one is the Center for Science in the Public Interest. That's another good source, in my opinion. It's the website is CSPINET. C is in Charlie, S is in Sam, PINET.org. Again, this is a site where you can subscribe to a newsletter, which will cost a little bit of money, but not very much. But you can look at this site and get a broad basis for how your nutrition should be and where it can come from. As far as the supplement goes, Kerry, I'll go back to what I did with my own doctor and how I improved myself. I took a fruit and vegetable supplement, which, by the way, these are well researched. Particular brand I used, and I've talked about it, and it's even on the library, is Juice Plus. There's another one that's being advertised on TV a lot. Juice Plus has over 30 studies in the medical literature on the effectiveness of a fruit and vegetable supplement. So what does that mean? The fruits and vegetables are grown, they're harvested fresh, they're dehydrated, and they're put in capsules. And then you're taking that. So you're not taking any particular supplement. You're taking a combination of fruits and vegetables in a capsule.
As you were talking about that, I was thinking, thank you for giving a couple of specific directions that we can go in and maybe do some further research, because I was actually, as a side question, but I was going to say probably the job of straightening this out and doing the right thing is probably maybe more difficult than it has been, because there's a saying that's out there: if you saw it on the internet, it must be true. I mean, there's so much information out there, and so you'll put in a Google word. The doctor says, "Hey, let's watch your cholesterol." So you come back from the doctor's office and you type in the word cholesterol, and you just get page after page after page of stuff. The problem is you don't really know if it's being filtered in a way that is really helpful for you. It's like you're getting volume, not necessarily quality,
It's true. And even if we're looking at quality today, if we look at how the data has been disseminated, particularly with what's going on with COVID in the past 2 years, some of the most reputable journals have been in some way tarnished because some of the data they publish actually had to be retracted because it wasn't true.
Yeah,
it's becoming more and more difficult.
Yeah, isn't that part of it too? Is that there's two sides to this. First of all, there's more information available out there, and then let's be honest, we as a society, I feel, are a little bit more skeptical every time we see something. Like, yeah, I don't know. Somebody selling me something? I don't know.
It's true, and we've got to think that way about a lot of things. We've talked, and we're not talking today about medications, but we've talked in shows about medications before.
Right.
It very much is, what can I do in order to be able to increase my health prospects so I don't have to take the medication and only leave the medication as last resort? Or if you've got a specific health problem and you've got to take the medication to correct it, that's fine. But then your continuing goal is finding the combination of ingredients, and you may not find it, but you certainly have that you certainly search for that in order to be able to reduce or even eliminate the need for the medication. Now, you've got to do that under doctor's supervision. You can't do it by yourself. Notice I talked about this in the first section on what I'm doing. I'm taking a medication. I'm gradually getting off. I'm not doing it by myself. I'm doing it with my doctor. And he understands what I'm doing, and we're tracking this together, and we're on the same team, and we're going to do just fine together. And if I find that, in fact, that I failed in getting off this medication, that the supplements that I'm using, which have reduced my need for the medication, don't reduce it entirely, well, good. I've got that tracking and that follow-up, so now I can put the medication back, maybe on a limited basis, and I can track that and see how I'm doing. I think finding a doctor who's a teammate, who just doesn't dictate, can help you a lot, but you don't necessarily depend upon the doctor for all of the information. As I said, get your own information. Go to some of these sources that we talked about and get your own information. So now you've studied, you know what you might do. You may do what you might what might be best for you, and particularly if you're following these two these organizations, nutritionfacts.org or cspinet.org. This is scientific data, which is looking at areas that you might not look at, your doctor might not look at, but is in the body of medical research. So you're making sound, fundamental decisions for yourself. And then you and your doctor can discuss the strategies like I am and decide on a course that you might take in order to be able to limit the medications you're using or lose weight or whatever it is that you need to do in order to be able to make yourself live better and happier. Go back to this fundamental. 5 servings of fruits and vegetables reduced the incidence of cardiovascular disease and cancer, and people live longer. I mean, that's just a simple thing. 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day with a long-term study of 28 to 30 years. This is important stuff.
Yeah, we're talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon, who's noted area periodontist, but has quite an interest and I guess a knowledge base of things that are related to nutrition. And as we've talked along the way, has been really kind of pioneering in some of the studies that talk about overall health and its impact on mouth health and vice versa. And I was going to say, Dr. Sheldon, as we're talking about all these topics, if somebody wants to reach you and maybe reach the office and they have some questions, or maybe they didn't get the name of the name of one of the recommended or suggested resources, how do they reach you?
Oh, for Pete's sake, if you want to come to the office, then just call 321-259-8000. Make the appointment. You can come in, donate $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard. You get the entire examination, CT scan, everything at no charge. And just call that number, 321-259-8000. But if you want to talk to me directly, if you want my opinion, just write to me. Write to my email address, Dr. Lee, DRLEE, at solidbite.com. 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 And you can contact me directly and say, all right, what about this? Now, understand, just like here, I can't give you medical advice. At least I'll be able to lead you in the right direction. Here's where you can read, and you can get your own information, acquire your own information, and make the best health decisions for yourself.
You know what I love that you're saying about this, as an organization, we're a Florida 501c3 nonprofit, which means we exist for no other reason than to serve the people that we serve, which is our seniors here in Brevard County. And we're always trying to get information in the hands of seniors that will improve the quality of life and just make it a better experience all the way around, and to take advantage of some of the knowledge base that is out there from people who are working in these various areas. And so Joe Steckler, our president and founder, he's always talked about coming up with an aging plan. And what he means by that is much like, ironically, we talk about a hurricane plan. That kind of word is being bandied about, particularly today with the storm Nicole, kind of bumping around out there. But the point that I wanted to get to was that you don't, just because you make a hurricane plan, it doesn't mean you want to have a problem. It means you want to find the best way through the problem that you possibly can. And that's what Joe means by an aging plan. We've euphemistically tagged it up, calling it get your ducks in a row, but it's the same idea. We want to help you think to navigate so you can have your best life. And I think that's, Dr. Sheldon, what you're talking about when we talk about nutritional aspects. This should be part of your aging plan. It's not like a crash diet or like I've got to lose 20 pounds before my class reunion kind of thing or anything like that. What we're really talking about is trying to improve the quality of our life. And the other thing, Dr. Sheldon, that we keep learning, I'm talking about as I have the privilege of talking with real experts who know what they're doing in various aspects of this, like yourself, but I would include a lot of the professionals that are connected with helping seniors. We also come up with a corollary to this getting your ducks in a row thing, which is don't try this on your own. In other words, you don't have to try to vet out all the stuff that you see on the internet. In fact, a lot of times we keep learning that can be as much harmful as it can be beneficial. But take advantage of some of the trusted resources that are here locally from people who care and want to help you make good decisions about this. And I think, Dr. Sheldon, that's why the validity of what you're talking about today, I think, is so high because this isn't new. Like I said, you and Joe have been talking about nutritional aspects for, certainly since Helping Seniors have been around, and I would guess probably when you guys were doing TV for Brevard Alzheimer's, even before that. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, Joe and I have been together ever since practically from the time Joe got here.
Right.
So we've done that, but the resource that we have at Helping Seniors, Nancy Deerdorf, is well attuned to what we're talking about here as well. So it doesn't mean that Nancy's going to give you the answers. It doesn't mean that I'm going to give you the answers. It means that at least there are resource people here who understand, and Nancy is a nurse, so who understand overall healthcare and perhaps how nutrition will fit into that entire system, and then you can determine what you want to change and how you might want to change it. And there are good resources on the outside who can help you with nutrition and help you make the right decisions.
Yeah, you're saying it so correctly. When you have people who have skills and knowledge and a compassion to help others, it's so important. And one of the things I know we just have a couple of minutes late. I wanted to share a great resource that you want to be aware of. It's actually coming up Monday. So we're talking about next Monday. This would be Monday, the 14th of November. So we're sitting here, we're talking to you on Wednesday the 9th. We're talking about the 14th of November. And what it is something that we've been doing now for a while with our friends at Zon Beachside. It's called the Senior Resource Center Brevard. And we actually do a free community education series workshop. We pledge to keep it 55 minutes or less, but we also pledge to give you information that will help you along on your aging plan. So, for example, on this Monday, we have the privilege of having elder law attorney Amy B. Van Fossen of the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen, and she's going to give us kind of a primer on your aging plan, putting it all together. It's a Helping Seniors workshop. It's a 55-minute program. Starts at 10:30 at Zon Beachside. We meet in the Nautilus room there, which is a great meeting room that they have. They're kind enough to supply coffee and some snacks. I'm not going to speak to the nutritional value. Dr. Dr. Sheldon, after we've just, because usually they're really tasty Danishes and things like that. So maybe we'll ask Chef Jason to include some more fruits and veggies so that we can pay the proper respect to everything that we're learning today. However, the point of this is you're going to get some good, it's like I've heard Amy say in her law practice, she said, you may deal with estate planning once or twice in your life because, it's you, maybe your significant other, your spouse, maybe your mom or dad at some point in time. So you're dealing with this in onesies and twosies. They're dealing with this 20, 30, 40 per week. So they have a lot of experience to navigate. And so again, the question is, why do you try stuff like this on your own? So if you want to get more information about the Monday Senior Resource Center event, 10:30 to 11:30 at Zon Beachside. We do ask that you RSVP. So seriously, Chef Jason can prepare the right amount of snacks and stuff, and then we make sure we have a seat for you. Attorney Amy Van Fossen is going to be there. It's going to be a great program about putting together your aging plan. So you just call Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, on our senior information helpline, 321-473-7770. I'll say the number again in a moment so you can grab a pencil and jot this down. But the point is, give her a call. She can get you on the RSVP list for this. And also, if you've been listening to this show and maybe, I know how it is. Things go by you real quick, especially when you're listening on the radio. And maybe you want to copy down one of those web addresses that Dr. Sheldon was sharing. Nancy will have those for you as well. So I'm going to give you that number again. The Senior Information Helpline number is 321-473-7770, 321-473-7770, and call her and get signed up for Monday. It's absolutely free. It's a great resource that will help build up your body of knowledge about your aging plan. And then too, like we're talking, Dr. Sheldon, we've covered a lot of ground about this today. And I think the thing that's so helpful in our conversation is you're opening us up to ways of thinking past the doctor sent me home with a Mediterranean diet. What do I do with this? And that's why this conversation about thinking big picture is so important.
It is, and the resources are simpler than you might think. So if we just go to those two, nutritionfacts.org, just start there, or go to cspinet.org. You can start to read a little bit, and you'll get some more information.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And if somebody does want to reach again, like you do have this great opportunity that we often talk about. It's actually ends up being a fundraiser for helping seniors, but it's also a great way to check out what may be going on in your mouth. And the best ideas is that you guys have that Solid Bite Gives Back program where somebody can come and say, hey, listen, I heard about it on Helping Seniors. I want to support Helping Seniors. Tell me where I'm at on my mouth. And it's a great program. How do people get in touch with you about that?
Yeah, the routine thing that I hear is that's the best dental examination I've ever had. I just love that when people tell me that.
Yeah.
So if you want that, just give us a call, 321-259-8000. You'll write a check for $50 or more to Helping Seniors. You'll get the entire examination, all the x-rays, CT scan at no charge.
Yeah. And then I also appreciate very much your kind offer. Say, give me an email. Let's talk nutrition. And again, say that email one more time.
Dr. Lee, DRLEE @solidbite.com.
So there you have it. Dr. Lee Sheldon, as we're talking about current concepts on nutrition, another great body of knowledge that we could add into the Helping Seniors universe of things that help us as we want to live our best lives with everything that we're doing. And so as we get to the close of the show, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Be safe with all the conditions that are out there today. And on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, and our entire Helping Seniors crew, and all those who make what we do possible, want to thank you. And we look forward to welcoming you back to the next edition of Helping Seniors Radio on 90.3 WEJF FM. See you next week.